Curt Cignetti, Indiana's coach, his opening press conference, he showed it a little bit. I think that he was at times trying to make a point that this is not too big for him, although this is a step up, and he can acknowledge it or not. I don't care if he does or not. I know for a fact that moving from the league he was in to the Big Ten is a freaking step up. Now, I asked him a question about what his plan was for NIL, since he hadn't really had to deal with it. And what I meant was at the level he's going to have to deal with it now, because I don't think players are moving around his league because of NIL or moving wherever. But when you're competing against teams like Ohio State, who are probably looking at a $13 million a year payroll, since that's what Ryan Day said, we know that Oklahoma has a $14 million payroll. But here, his answer to my question to me was him trying to make a point. This is not too big for me. So go ahead and roll it, John.
With the move up to the Big Ten, you also move into a league that is fraught with the NIL portion of this, and there's a pledge of $3 million to the football program.
Mm-hmm.
How are you going to develop that plan? So that's not something you've had to really deal with before, and do it in a way that you can compete the best you can with the teams in the league.
Yeah, I'm not sure what you're referencing, not having to deal with. So we've been dealing with NIL for 3 years now, and we had a collective at JMU. So I guess your question is, I thought I answered it already, to be honest with you. There's going to be people in this conference that probably have more resources than we do.
You think?
But that's not detrimental. You know, you got to take the right kind of guys. You got to develop them, form the intangibles on your football team, right? And that's what we plan on doing. There's a lot of good players out there. I mean, you know, the price tag on a guy, you know, and the correlation between his production on the field, I'd like to see the percentage of that, right? I know this at JMU. Our best transfers were the ones from St. Francis, all these FCS schools, right? I had 2 quarterbacks that came from G5 schools that were really unsuccessful at 2 different schools, and the teams were unsuccessful. That came to our place in their player year on offense, right? My worst transfers at James Madison were Power 5 guys. They were my worst.
There you go. I whether or not he wants to acknowledge that there is a freaking difference between the NIL monies that are being paid at, say, Michigan, Ohio State, and the players they get, and Indiana is a gigantic chasm. That's on him. But I'm not doubting that he can do what he said, and you find the right players and you develop them. And I also agree the price tag on a certain guy and their production on the field doesn't always work out. I'm sure right now a lot of people are saying that about Mackenzie Mbako, saying, wait a minute, I thought he was going to be this savior, blah, 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 blah. He's still a freshman. He's still learning. But he seems like he is picking it up quickly and becoming an important cog in the basketball program. But so there's his answer.
Yeah. One quick thing about his answer, that is a spectacular, that is an old school Yinzer accent, by the way. Pyre, making pyre one syllable.
I've heard people say that his I can't think of the word I'm trying to use, but the way he speaks is kind of similar to Bob Knight.
I told you that last week.
Was that you?
He's got some of that. He's got some of that. That's some Yinzer right there saying pyre. So we used to say pyre. Yeah.
Now by Yinzer, explain what Yinzer is.
People who say Yins, which means people from the Pittsburgh area, from any of the not just the city itself, but the outlying suburbs and whatnot. So because rather than y'all, we say Yins, as your second person plural. when we're speaking to you folks, we say, hey, Jens, yeah. Sorry.
I love it. I love that. I have not known that.
Yeah. So Pyre is a big one. That's a big one. It's power. We don't say it that way. We say Pyre.
Yeah, I get it all the time.
Anyway, that was there. But to get back to the gist of what he said, getting combative on that, I thought was dumb because he probably, I was just reading the transcript, and I mean, to the greater point, like, price tag on a guy, like, first off, technically you're not even supposed to know that. Like, you have to marshal this without having too much wherewithal. I mean, that's kind of the thing, is trying to figure out, in theory, you're supposed to not know, the right hand is not supposed to know what the left hand is doing, but you have to be aware that there is a right hand, or a left hand, or whichever way I started with being the opposite. You have to know that's there. You have to know that's being pushed, but, like, it's not like you would say, well, okay, I got to make sure that my offensive line gets this, or my quarterback gets this. Like, it did seem like he was a little bit all over the place there as far as explaining how he was going to handle it. But it is an issue for IU in general. Obviously it was big news that one of those collectives pitched in and said, we're going to bring $3 million to this case, right out of the gate to support Cignetti. And I don't know. I mean, like, obviously we don't know a lot of the numbers. It's not like you can list these as contracts. And there is what you get out of your collective, but there's also just the general, NIL that you can tap into that doesn't necessarily have to be marshaled by your school. That you can go do a Dr. Pepper commercial, and that doesn't mean USC is paying you or whatever. I mean, like, Caleb Williams got to do some commercials. Bryce Young did them last year. Gets a ton of money out of that. Doesn't come from anybody at USC or Alabama as far as just getting you paid. So I think it's hard to just it's got to be hard to balance that. It's got to be hard to make sense of that. And so he probably should have at least dealt with that question like it was a serious question, which it was. So, and a fair one. So that came off a little bit weird to me, but he made some points that weren't necessarily connected that were also interesting. I mean, I think that there is a point to be made that individually, you don't know as far as, what stars check out. When it comes to transfers, if someone's transferring down to you, if that ultimately helps you or not. You've seen it work. You've seen a high level Power 5 guy go down a level and be awesome. But you've seen other guys. You've seen other guys transfer down and not be very good. The more movement there is, the more range of outcomes there is. That you have this, the portal acting the way it does. You're now seeing, you have a lot more data to look at, and sometimes, to his point, it's not like, okay, you get a Power 5 program to transfer down to a Sunbelt league, he's going to be awesome. Not necessarily. All right, if he's coming up from St. Francis, he's not going to be very good. Not necessarily. You've seen it work both ways. You've seen it fail both ways. So he makes a good point there, I thought. Which probably sets you up nice to say, hey, I'm going to bring in Jordan McLeod. Maybe that's not as exciting as you want. Maybe you'd rather have Kyle McCord, but I'm going to bring this guy in, and he was really great where I had him, and he's going to be great here too. So, there's he made a lot of interesting points there that didn't directly answer your question, but there were interesting points in there.